Hi, it's Reed from Blueberry Quilts, and today I'm going to show you how to make the Golden Gate Park Table Runner. This was made with the Creative Grids Scrap Crazy 6 ruler and also fat quarters from QT Fabrics from their Illuminations line. So in order to do this, all you need is the Scrap Crazy 6 ruler set and some beautiful fat quarters like this Illuminations line from QT Fabrics. The quilt block is a set-in seam. Like in order to get these pieces to go around, you have to do a set-in seam at some point. So I'm going to show you how to do that, and I'll also show you how to cut out the pieces for this block that's called the windmill block and this one that's called the flower block. So let's get started. In order to cut the black and white segments for this project, we have to sew black and white strips together. These are 2.5 inch strips that when they're combined together make a width of 4.5 inches. And now basically we need a segment that's going to be the length of the bottom of this. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually 5.5 would work. So 5.5 inch segments. So we're going to take and lay this along like this. Put that right along the lines there. Straighten it along the lines there. And then we're going to cut off a 5.5 inch segment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 5.5 right there. When you cut them, you're going to get 7 in a strip set. And now to cut these with the template C of the Scrap Crazy 6 ruler, we want to make sure that the big part is on the black and the little part is on the white. And so basically, we take and line up the right edge of the ruler with the edge of our segment, and then there's a white line right here. You can see it on the black, and you're going to line that up with your seam line. So again, this is the width of the ruler. It's 4.5 inches. When you sew the two strips together with that 1/2 inch seam allowance, it makes the strip 4.5 inches. So you get it lined up like that. Hold it in place. Take a back cut. Go forward, and then you want to trim this little corner off here as well. And there you go. That's how you get one of the black and white units for the block. And you're going to need a total of 48 of those. I'll do it for you one more time. So we want to make sure that when we place the template on our black and white segment, that we have the smaller part of the ruler on the white part and the larger part on the black part. We're going to line up the right edge of the ruler with the right edge of our segment, and then we're going to make sure that this line, the white line there, is along the seam allowance. Hold the ruler in place, cut, cut off that little dog ear part there. And there we go. That's how easy it is. Now to cut the colored segments in the Golden Gate part block, we're going to lay 2 of our strip sets together, both facing right side up. And these strip sets are the width of the ruler, which is 4.5 inches. And they've been cut from fat quarters along the long edge. So they're basically 22 inches by 4.5 inches. The first thing that we want to do is we want to take this edge of the ruler, the straight edge, and we want to trim that off and make a nice straight edge. Didn't quite get it at the beginning there. There we go. Okay. Now we want to lay the right edge of our ruler along the line that we just cut. Just like that. And we're going to cut along this left edge. And then we're also going to cut this little dog ear part off right here. And then we have 2 segments that way. Now we want to continue cutting down the strip. So we're going to leave it right where it is. And we're going to take and we're going to rotate the ruler. It was like this. We're going to rotate it 180 degrees and line up that right edge with the line that we just cut, and get the top and the bottom straight with the strip. And then we're going to cut over here on this left side. We're going to cut right along here. And then I have this on a rotating mat so that it's easy for me to turn it around and get it in a position where it's easy for me to cut off this dog ear part. And there we go. We have the 4 pieces that we need. And they get matched up with the black and white pieces that we cut. So when you're sewing them together, the nice thing about having these dog ears trimmed off is that that basically lines up. See how the flat edge of that basically lines right up with that? So you can take and put a pin in here to hold that in place if you like. And then when we come up here to the other end, it does the same thing. Those 2 flat edges line up with each other. And there you go. You just sew from 1/4 inch right along this line. It's super easy. The Golden Gate Park blocks have a set-in seam, but it's really not that hard to do, and so now I'm going to show you how it gets sewn together. One of the blocks is laid out this way, where the colored fabrics are meeting the yellow square in the middle. And then another way that they get laid out is this way, with the white facing. So those are the 2 ways that the blocks get laid out. This way it kind of looks like a windmill, and this way it kind of looks like the flowers that you would see in the Golden Gate Conservatory. So by set-in seam, what that means is, first of all, you have to sew the square to this piece. And you're not going to sew it completely on this first seam. You're only going to sew it halfway. So you would take and sew from there to there and then stop. And then you're going to press this up like this. And then when you've done that, you'll notice that this piece matches up with it. So then you're going to take and sew this piece on completely. Then once that's been done, this piece will match up with those two, so you would sew that piece on. And then finally, this this one is going to get sewn to these two, and then you're going to complete that final seam down here on the bottom. So I will show you these one step at a time. So the first thing that we're going to do on what looks like the flower block is sew the yellow square to this bottom one, and we're only going to sew halfway. So here is the first block sewn, and you will see that I've basically stitched from there to there, and I did back stitch to just kind of hold this in place, and then I took it to my iron and pressed it. So see how this edge over here is not sewn yet. So then when we lay it down here again, we now notice that this edge will line up with this edge. So we're going to flip this onto here, and we're going to sew these two together right along this entire edge. So here's the next seam. I basically have sewn it from down here all the way up here, and you'll notice that it doesn't line up perfectly, but the block is still going to work out. And then, so you set the seam and then press away from the yellow square. So each time you add another one of these pieces, you press away from the yellow square. So now we're going to add this top piece, and you'll notice how it matches up with these two, and we're going to flip it down and sew along that edge. So now this third piece has been sewn on here at the top, sewn along this entire edge. Set the seam with your iron and then press it away from the yellow square. And now you'll notice that this fourth piece is going to line up with these two, and we're going to take and sew that all the way along there, 1/4 inch, all the way along that edge. Now we have sewn the fourth piece on, stitched 1/4 inch along here. Now one thing I want to point out was, you know, this part when you had put the first piece on the yellow, kind of folded this back 1/4 inch. So when you're sewing this piece, this fourth piece on, you do want to make sure that you go all the way out to the corner on that yellow piece, so that, see how it's kind of bent under there? It was folded from being pressed from that first piece. Well, you do have to make sure that your last piece goes out to the edge of the yellow on that one. And so now here's the magic of doing the set-in seam. So now you're going to take and fold it like this, and you're going to match up this last seam from here to right there where we stopped sewing the first time. So you're going to sew 1/4 inch from there to there, and then it'll be done, and I'll be back and show you what it looks like in just a second. Here's the completed block with the final set-in seam sewn. And here is that last seam right here. And on the back, in order to get it to press away from, press away from the yellow, you do have to snip the seam right there. So I've made a tiny little snip there, which allows that to press flat there. So that is how to create the flower block with the set-in seam in the Golden Gate Park pattern using the Creative Grids Scrap Crazy 6 template set, and specifically using template C from that package. Well, I hope you've enjoyed learning how to make the Golden Gate table runner today, and that you've learned how to make the two blocks, the windmill block and the flower block, and how to use the Scrap Crazy 6 ruler, and also how to sew a set-in seam. So if you have any questions, please be sure to leave them in the comments. The pattern for this table runner is on our website. It's called Golden Gate Park. And also, if you enjoy this content, please be sure to share this video with your friends. Also give the video a like and hit that subscribe button. Thanks so much, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.